A user clicks a malicious link. The computer starts acting strange. They call the IT help desk, and the technician says the magic words. Have you tried turning it off and on again? In standard IT, a reboot fixes the problem. In digital forensics, that reboot just destroyed the entire crime scene. Welcome back to the Silent Defender. My name is Ritik Jaswal. I am a cybersecurity incident response engineer, upskilling into digital forensics. I am taking you along for the ride. Let's learn how to do this together. Welcome to video 1 of Digital Forensics series, Order of Volatility and Chain of Custody. Before you touch a single tool, you must understand the rules of engagement. As a forensic investigator, your goal is to preserve the evidence. This starts with the Order of Volatility, defined by RFC 3227. It states that you must collect evidence from the most volatile to the least volatile, because volatile data disappears the second the power is cut. First, you capture CPU registers and cache. Next, you dump the live RAM. This holds active network connections or running malware. If you shut the system down first, all of that is gone forever. Only after you secure the RAM, you move to the hard drive, then remote logs, network topology, and finally archived backups. Beginners make critical mistakes that accidentally do the hacker's job for them. Mistake 1. Opening the command prompt and typing netstat or ps to look for connections. Never trust the native tools on a compromised machine. Attackers install rootkits that replace those exact tools with modified versions designed to hide their malware. Mistake 2. Believing the computer's clock. System clocks are almost always wrong. You must document the clock drift, for example, noting that the compromised system was actually 4 minutes and 12 seconds faster than UTC. If you don't, your entire timeline will be broken. Let's talk about the chain of custody, outlined in NIST Special Publication 80086. It doesn't matter if you find the absolute proof of a breach. If you cannot prove the integrity of the evidence, it is entirely useless in a court of law or an HR dispute. You must document everything. Who collected it? When it was collected? Where it was found, who handled it, how it was stored, and every single time it transferred hands. In fact, the very first thing you do when walking up to a compromised machine isn't touching the keyboard. It is taking out your phone and photographing the screen to show exactly what was open, and photographing the back of the PC to document exactly which USBs and cables were plugged in. To make evidence legally valid, it must be admissible, authentic, complete, reliable, and believable. How do we prove that? First, we use hardware or software write blockers to ensure our computer cannot accidentally write data to the suspect's drive. Second, we never work on the original evidence. We make a bit-for-bit copy and do all our analysis on the read-only duplicate. Finally, we use cryptographic hashing, like SHA-256. If the hash of our copy matches the hash of the original drive, we have mathematical certainty that not a single byte was altered. This is the official digital forensic process. Collection, acquiring the data safely. Examination, extracting the artifacts like logs and registry keys. Analysis, answering who, what, when, where, and how. And finally, reporting. You can take reference from RFC 3227 or NIST Special Publication 80086 to understand it better. I will link the documents in the description. Hit the like button and subscribe to follow the journey. Keep defending.